Look, Putin's paid tribute to the mercenary Prigozhin in a televised address. But Vladimir Putin was very precise, wasn't he, with his choice of words. He stopped short of directly confirming Prigozhin's death. Will we get a confirmation? And who will it come from if we do?
Well, we might still wait for a few days because we are making DNA tests. But to be honest, we already got all the confirmations. The pro-Kremlin war agencies, they all confirmed that it was Prigozhin in this plane. We got these confirmations also from inside Wagner. So I don't think that there is any doubt that Prigozhin was actually on this plane.
OK. And where does this leave Vladimir Putin and the word on the ground in Russia, I suppose, how this is being reported over there, Andrei? What is being said?
Well, official line is very confusing. The investigative committee, the main investigative body in the country, refused to open a case on as a terrorist attack or any kind of attack. They are still saying that some malfunction happening, and that's why this catastrophe actually took place. But of course, from the sources on the ground, it's clear that the FSB, the Russian counterintelligence service, was the first on the ground. They collected all the evidence. They interrogated witnesses. So it's a high-profile case. But again, the official line is that it was some sort of catastrophe with very unknown origins.
At one point, UK defence sources were saying that the FSB intelligence agency was most likely to be responsible for the crash. And of course, if they've been at the site collecting evidence, that perhaps tells me all we need to know about whether we'll ever find out the real truth behind this.
Yes, absolutely. But what is really remarkable is that in all my career, it is the very first time when the sources are assuming immediately that actually it was Putin who ordered this attack and not some mysterious rogue elements within the military or the security services. And that was the line with the previous assassinations with Alexander Litvinenko, Anna Politkovskaya, Boris Nemtsov. The sources inside always tried to insist that, well, we still have some rogue elements within our ranks and they might be responsible for the attack. Not in this case. In this case, everybody immediately assumed it was Putin. And I think it is a very interesting development. It means basically that even if Putin looked really weak and undecisive 2 months back, now he is very much back in control.
And he's in control because he would argue that if he is behind this, and again, we'll likely never know one way or the other, that he's done it according to his own time frame.
Absolutely. He took his time to assess everything about Prigozhin, because Prigozhin used to have a really huge business empire. It's not only about Wagner, it's also about trust factories. It's about his interest in Africa and the Middle East. It's also about some IT companies in Crimea, for instance. So it is a big empire. And also, Prigozhin was, to some extent, almost indispensable. He played a really important role for Putin recently, and not only on the battlefield. His main job was to keep the Russian military off balance. And now Putin needs to think where to find some sort of substitute for this role, because he still needs to keep his military on the leash and off balance.
Who might be the substitute? There are other mercenary groups, and equally, are members of the Wagner Group mobilising? What have you heard on the ground there in terms of whether there will be any response from the Wagner Group, or are they so weakened that we won't get one?
I think it's very unlikely. The problem is that along with Prigozhin on this plane was also Dmitry Utkin, who is actually the military commander of Wagner Group. He is a former veteran of military intelligence, and he was widely respected. Not only inside Wagner, but also in Russian special forces and by military intelligence. And now, with him out of the picture, it will be really difficult for Wagner soldiers to organize themselves into some sort of resistance. I don't think it's actually possible.
We're hearing from the Pentagon tonight that there's no indication that the plane brought down was done so by a surface-to-air missile. That contradicts, by the way, what US intelligence sources were telling us a little earlier on today. So they say not a surface-to-air missile. The New York Times has been told, well, they cite US and other Western officials, that an explosion on board the plane probably brought it down. Do you have any information at all, Andrei, what is being suggested in the circles that you are speaking to?
Well, some sources inside of the FSB suggest that there was some package delivered last minute on board, and they actually trying to say that probably it was the cause of the explosion. To be honest, I think it looks like a very famous and traditional diversion tactics. If you want to muddy the waters, if you want to spread distrust among the ranks of Wagner, that's exactly what you would do. You would try to say that there was no attack from outside, it was inside job, and people would start guessing themselves, and it basically means that there is a guarantee that nothing would be done by Wagner people to retaliate this attack.